Well, it's another day and one more dollar. Y'all know how it goes. But today, I kind of wanted to talk about all the surgeries I've had, which I feel like is more than the average person. I've had a total of 3 in my whole life. And I'll start with the one that was earliest all the way to the last one, the most recent one. The most recent one was, already about 15 years ago, I'd say. So I do my best to remember all of them. The first one I definitely don't remember because I was real little. And I had to get surgery to get my baby teeth removed, I think. Basically I had to get my baby teeth removed when I was super little. And that's about all there is to that one. Fast forward way into the future as a young teen, I had appendicitis. For those of you who don't know, that's where your appendix ruptures and you have to get it removed immediately or it could be fatal. And at first it seems like you just have a normal virus. That's what it seems like to me. So I wake up one morning feeling very ill, like sick. And, this may be TMI, but, I was puking as you would with a stomach virus, because that's what everybody thought it was. And, so, you just drink Gatorade and keep what you can down. And my mother went to work. She did an 8-hour shift. She came back. I was no better. No better than I was when she left. She said, "Do you need to go to the hospital?" I said, "Yes, let's go to the hospital." So we get to the hospital, and our wonderful hospital, it takes forever to get in there. Forever. It was at least a 4-hour wait at the most. If I can remember right, it seemed like a 4-hour wait anyway. But yeah, we get back there. The nurses act like it wasn't a big deal. Then the doctor comes in, pushes on my side right here where my appendix used to be. And he says, "Get him to the surgery room stat." And we're like, oh boy, here we go. So, had to get my appendix removed. Of course, I don't remember much because they put you to sleep. And it was over with before you know it. Then I wake up with this serious pain in my side because they cut me open and removed this organ that was rupturing. And the worst part about it was the recovery time, especially back then. This was 17 years ago. By now, the recovery time, you just couldn't do any kind of sit up or anything. The only thing you can do is just get better. And that's the most of that one. I think the recovery time was like 2 months, 2 or 3 months that I couldn't really do anything. And even after that, it was still rough sailing. Then the worst one was the next one, and that was spinal fusion surgery. That's a tongue twister. What that is where I was born with scoliosis and I needed surgery to correct my spine because it was so bad that the right side was curving into my lungs. My spine basically looked like the letter S. Slightly curved at the top, big curve at the bottom. And they found it in school, and I remember They've been all the kids back and they rubbed their backs. Nobody got their name. They didn't ask anybody's name but mine. And I didn't think nothing about it. A week later, the doctor gets a hold of my parents and was like, or the school gets a hold of my parents, and they said, yeah, your son needs to be checked at this place. So we go to this place. I think it was way up north at this children's hospital. Not up north, it was north state from where we are, because we live in the way down south, and this was up north Georgia. And I think it was Augusta, Georgia. They checked my spine. Of course, it was too far along to get any kind of brace to correct it or anything. So surgery was my only option. And what you gonna do? You have to take it if that's your only option, if that's what the doctors say you need. I guess in hindsight we should have got a second opinion, but they said I needed it, so I got it. So the next step is the surgery prep, which you go back home, and then you go like a month later, you go back to the doctors and they tell you when your appointment is. You know, blah, blah. Fast forward to the surgery, and I'm worrying to death already as a teenager that has crazy anxiety. I probably was about 14-ish. I don't know. I can't remember exactly how old I was. Anyway, I know I was a teenager with a lot of anxiety, and this just did not help. Because in my head, I was going to come out of this paralyzed. Because that's where your brain goes. Your brain always goes to the worst outcome possible. And that's where my brain went. So of course we asked the doctor, is this a possibility? They said yes. Anytime you get a back surgery, being paralyzed is 100% a possibility. But very low possibility, but it is a possibility. So we finally get the date to get my surgery, and I think my mother's more worried about it than I am, but I was definitely worried about it as well. And we get there, and they wheel me back, and I can just remember they give me a shot of something. I can't remember what it is, but the shot made me super sleepy, like the sleepiest I've ever been, but I couldn't fall asleep. I can just remember being in a daze, just being wheeled through the hospital. They finally get me back to this room, and there was a ton of doctors back there. They all had their mask on, and then they do the typical thing, tell you, all right, count backwards from 10. I got to 7, and I was asleep, completely gone. And I remember waking up with this not severe pain, because they had IV morphine in your IV. Couldn't really feel nothing. Just remember waking up in the next room, and the surgery was already over. It was an 8-hour surgery, but to me it felt like a minute. You know, maybe you take a 15-minute nap. That's what it felt like to me. So the surgery was over, and the recovery time was awful. This was probably 15 years ago. Nowadays they have the kids up walking, which is a good thing the next day, which is a good thing. Then you couldn't move or walk for more, it seemed like a week that we was in the hospital, because I couldn't move. Had to roll around the hospital in a wheelchair. Remember my mother staying there with me the whole time, pushing me around the hospital. And the recovery time was the worst part, because I remember not being able to move. The nurses would have to come and flip you so you don't get like bed sores and stuff. I don't know, it's crazy, just way too much for a kid to go through, but sometimes it's just how it is. And the worst pain ever was the trip back, because I think it was at least a 3-4 hour, maybe even 5 hour drive back home. And I don't have that morphine no more, so I'm just having to suck it up and get home while my parents drove, you know. And that was the worst part about the whole situation, was just trying to get back home. And the recovery time had to be 6-7 months before I even just felt normal again. But something that had to be done, you know, because life ain't perfect. It never will be. So you can just play the best hand you dealt. But on that note, I think I'm going to end it there, and y'all just keep on keeping on.